But a cost of living crisis and heightened interest rates, Australia's property market has experienced soaring price growth over the past 2 years.
Well, it's good news for some. It's not so good for potential buyers hoping to own their own home. So how do we find the sweet spot? Domain property editor Alice Stoltz joins us now from Melbourne with more. Alice, good morning to you. What's the current makeup of renters and owners in Australia?
Good morning, Carl. Good morning, Sarah. Well, look, 2/3 of Australian adults basically own a house. Now, half of those have a mortgage, half of those don't. So I think when you see just how high home ownership is at the moment, you can understand why there is that tension in the question of, do you want house prices to rise or to fall? But there is undoubtedly that growing groundswell, continuing to bubble through, of people saying this is just no longer sustainable, knowing that we are facing serious home ownership decline.
So how do we get to those more moderate levels then?
Look, a lot of it, Sarah, is going to be about trying to slow down that price growth, because you don't want to sort of imbalance the system so much that it becomes, completely out of whack again. But basically, double-digit price growth annually is where we should begin to be concerned about it. So you can see Brisbane, Perth, Adelaide in particular in the past year have seen huge levels of growth. Now, that sort of growth just is not sustainable, and it's not healthy for the overall economy. And what we risk doing is potentially you can have situations where bubbles can form in the property market and more people are even pushed out of it.
So how do you bring more balance?
Look, Carl, it's going to be around slowing down price growth, and I think that's why we have to do it with sort of a measured approach. It's going to be things like basically putting more supply on, like using urban infill areas with infrastructure around it. Also looking at things like stamp duty, inefficient, lazy and expensive tax. In Sydney, stamp duty for the average price house is around $74,000, so huge numbers. And also a mindset shift. Property is just not a way to make money, it's actually, provide shelter that we're all entitled to.
Absolutely. Alice, thanks so much for joining us today.